Welcome to Satsang. Today it's going to be a powerful subject. Often when we hear the word, it's not going to be very pleasant. But when you get to understand it, it is the pleasantest things you can hear. And the word is death. But it's time to talk about it because of so many letters that I get, and people say, why do we suffer guilt and fear and suffer emotional pain and everything else? So I thought it's about time to really talk about the real issue, because we are so identified with the body-ego part that death is with us all the time, whether we realize it or not. But if we befriend it, that's freedom, that's peace. There was someone made a comment about my last satsang, underneath. And I said that the greatest fear is fear of truth. And then, of course, he took it out of context, but at the bottom of the video he said, Burt, you're wrong. He says, the greatest fear is not truth, but death. Well, in a way he's correct, but what I meant by truth, what is truth?
Eternity.
Very good. It is eternity. There's no fear of death. But we fear it because we think, you see, that we are this body alone. Whether we admit it or not, it's a fact. For example, a story comes to mind. Now, there was a Sufi master talking to a large following of his. And it was quite a large group. And he said to them, how many of you understand and know truth? And most hands went up. And then he said, I'm going to ask you one more question. Now, how many of you are totally without any fear of death? No hands went up. And then he continued. He said, if you think you know truth and still fear death, he says, you don't know truth. Because truth, like you said, it's eternal life. And knowing that it is beyond even life and death. See, that's another thing becomes so interesting when you really get to know death. It's beautiful in a way. You see, first of all, let's talk about the fear of death, because it is the most powerful thing there is. As a matter of fact, I'd like to quote you. I found it just this morning, and I thought, oh, I'll read it to the group. And it's workbook lesson 163. And I hope I'll find it right away, so bear with me. Okay. Yeah, oh, no, that. Yeah, 163. Okay, and it says, death is a thought that takes on many forms, often unrecognized. It may appear as sadness, and he's talking about fear of death, of course. Appears as fear, anxiety, doubt, as anger, faithlessness, and lack of trust. Concern for bodies, envy, and all forms in which the wish to be as you are not may come to tempt you. All such thoughts are but reflections of the worshipping of death. Now you might say, worshipping of death? Yes. Worshipping simply means, of course, that we keep choosing it. Just like people suffer a lot of anxiety, and you say, how do you prefer to feel right now? Really? Well, don't you prefer to feel whole instead of anxiety? And they'll say yes, but they'll still choose the anxiety, the worry, the fear that goes into it. That's the worshipping of death. Okay, so that's what the Course really meant. So we can say in a very simple way that all forms of emotional suffering is a fear of death. And now the key question that I'd like to emphasize here, because this is something that I've realized, so it's very dear to me. Can you be friends with death? Oh yes. Not only death, but death, that's my accent. Not only that, but if you make friends with death, you'll never know what true living really is. The freedom, the peace that comes with it. So how do you become friends with death? Very, very easy. Is understanding it more than intellectually. So I'd like your full attention here to really feel out what it means. See, death is a transition. Death is change. You see? So it's not something bad. As a matter of fact, if you separate life from death, it's impossible. You cannot separate life from death because the two work together completely. Okay? An example of this is, I'm talking right now. Listen to my words. Listen, listen, listen. Okay? Now I said 3 times listen. And each time you heard it at that moment. But the 2 other words listen that I said were in the past. They died. The only thing that's alive is this moment. Are you with me so far? So anything that I leave behind has died. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. You see? Because now is eternal. Everything that is happening now cannot die. But now is not life or death. Now is being. Being is beyond life and death. And the reason we fear death is because we think that we are just the body that is living. But what if you discover that you never lived and that you are not living? I'm pausing here on purpose. So if there's any question, I welcome them. Okay, remember, life and death are the 2 opposites of duality. Being is not a duality. But being is who you are. You are a human being. A being playing the human role. You know, it's a funny thing. I keep repeating this word all the time. You are a human being, a being playing the human role. I repeat it in my book, and that's why I wrote the book. I mention it in I mention it in all my talks. And somebody said to me, Burt, he said, you keep mentioning all the time you're a human being, a being playing the human role. He says, and it got to me to the point where the moment I hear you say it, I just want to shut down the tape, the video. He says, I'm tired of hearing it all the time. He said, but then I kept listening to the video, and then you said something interesting. You said that the mind judges all the time. And if you listen to the judgment without judging it, that opens up your heart. And he said, yeah, I judged you. And I listened to it. And after the video was over, I listened to that word. I'm a human being, being playing the human role. And for the first time, I felt it, he said. And I heard it so often. And the moment I felt it, it's just like a whole new surge of energy came to me. Okay, so this is the key. Just when we start listening, you see, the reason we don't listen is because we are conditioned with the past. And so when we hear something that we agree with, we think we know, and we leave it. And if we don't agree with it, we don't accept it, even as we listen. Are you with me so far? This is called mind. So we're listening with the mind, and we're not listening in the moment. And because we are doing that, you see, we are what is called, in the Course in Miracles words, would be death. You see, we are worshipping death. In other words, we're giving preference all the time to that which has died. Either we accept it because it's conditioned into us and we believe in it, or we don't accept it because it doesn't go well with our ideas of how it should be, instead of keeping ourselves fluid, open, resilient. You see what I mean? And that's the beautiful thing about now, because now is always open. Now has no personality. Now has no persona. But it's totally alive. You see? So therefore, even as I speak, okay, the words, the moment you hear them, Okay, at that moment they are alive. The ones I left behind, they are dead. So life and death is always together. For example, take the body. Now we're talking about life and death. Life cannot do without death. It's not possible. The body itself is shedding about 1 million cells a day. Okay? Maybe more or less, I'm not sure. But anyway, we go with that for now. And those cells are being replaced. You see? So there's death of the cells of the body and a renewal of new cells. Now, if a person is very negative and they keep living in the past, worshipping death, as the Course named it, what happens is that the person grows old very fast. Because they are not renewing at a rate to keep up. You see what I mean? So that's how people can keep looking younger and others can get so old so fast. Okay? Because every time you think a negative thought, you have death within the cell. And the cell replicates according to the words, to the memory, to the suggestion that is placed in it. You see? So the body is a very alive thing, but it's also neutral. You see, the body is only an appearance of consciousness. So the body doesn't live or die, it just gives you the semblance of living. So that when it drops, we say, oh, the person has died. But has the person really died? See, because beyond life and death is being. Being has no beginning, has no end, just is. I got an email today. I forgot to restart the recording. Okay. And, this guy wrote me the following, and he said, as a matter of fact, I got it just a couple of hours ago. He said, I work with people as a family therapist, and most of all as a conversational therapist, after the teachings of Carl Rogers. He said, so which advice would you give me to be in wholeness with my clients and to make them free? Which attitude is that which gives them the best of all? Could you help me in this area? And I wrote him back, and I said, yes. I said, if you can get them to be in touch with death, because once you transcend the fear of death, now you know how to live. See, to be afraid of death is to be afraid to live. Did you know that the two are one? The two are one. Now, I've heard something just recently, and that was a quote, statistic from the United States, and they said that there's 1 million suicides every year in the United States. We don't know much in Canada or any place else. Now, when it comes to suicide, is that person afraid of death when they commit suicide?
Afraid of life.
Hmm?
Afraid of life.
Afraid of life, which comes to the same thing. They want to escape. You see? So if you're afraid of life, you're afraid of death. And a fear of death brings fear of life. As a matter of fact, people who are afraid of death, you can almost see it in the way they act all the time, because they're always defensive, protective of the way they are, of the way they think they are. See, there's another thing too, which is also interesting about life and death, is that we are a human being. So the human is a becoming process, always becoming, striving for a goal, which is okay. You know, you're looking forward to the future, you're saving, you want to improve, you want to be better, you want to make things better. Okay, so in other words, you're looking for the future all the time, attaining, accomplishing something, okay? But when I realized this, it really took me, a few years ago, I said, wow, I said, what are we always striving for? We want to be happier, we want to be richer, we want to be famous, we want to have prestige, we want to amount to something. Why?
To be okay.
Yeah.
Completion.
Completion, which is being. To be okay, yeah. But for completion, that's the word. See, because being is the completion. So in other words, we are becoming all the time in order to be. Isn't that something? So we learn to be because becoming is a constant movement in fear and guilt. Okay, this is an established fact. We cannot help that. Because guilt is that feeling inside that I'm not complete. I want to be better because I don't like the way I am. Or I want to be richer because I feel so poor. I lack something, in other words, you see. So we want to be better all the time. But the moment you begin to realize that's a form of death, you see. But the moment you realize you are being, because all the time that's what you want. What if you realize being is what you're really after, not the $1 million, you see, not the big house, not the Ferrari, not the self-improvement. What you really want is to be. See, if you realize that, then the life and death are seen as one. And the moment you're seen as one, you are in being, because being is beyond both. Yeah.
So the being that you're describing, is that freedom?
Absolute freedom.
Yeah.
Absolute freedom. Now, what do we mean by freedom? Because many people say about freedom.
Well, freedom as in complete, safe, probably secure, complete.
Yeah. Okay, we can say that. Feeling so okay that there's no fear, worry, concern.
Like, yeah, like finished, complete.
It's finished, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
There.
You are relaxed, you are free. But there's another thing that comes with freedom, which people sometimes forget, because we are raised up in a very moralistic society with religion of good and bad, evil, sin, and all this. But in freedom, there is no sin. In freedom, there is no guilt. You see? So behavior is not important. Now you might say, if I behave badly, that's not important. The key point is that love is unfolded. When you find love, your behavior will be according to that love. So it's not a question. So it's not a matter of modifying your behavior or being a good person. The important thing is that you are filled with love. And that's the freedom. There is no wrong in it. And that is the key. Anyway, so how can we be sure that life is eternal?
It's not.
And
it's not a thinking thing.
no, it has nothing to do with thought at all. It's a matter of absolutely looking at what is. For example, right now, I'll ask you something. What is it you want more than anything? I'm asking specifically because we're going to get to the point
I
here.
want to travel.
Hmm?
I want to travel.
You want to travel, okay. You want that more than anything, okay. What would you like more than anything?
Committed relationship.
Okay. What would you like more than anything?
To live from love.
Okay.
Peace.
Okay. What would you want more than anything?
Vibrant energy.
Okay. What would you want more than anything?
Peace of mind.
Okay. Now, we all said what you said. Okay? Is that really true? What you want more than anything?
It's all freedom.
Hmm?
It's all freedom.
I want you to feel it, please, because it's obvious. But we miss it. We are missing it all the time because we are not totally looking at what is. Everything you've said is not what you truly want. What you truly want is you wanting it. Because if I asked you, who wants vibrant health? Who wants peace? Who wants it? You. Okay, so that's the first step. You is all there is. And in the beginning, we think of it as being selfish, isolated, and separate. But when you take these things, because we think in separation and then we make it wrong, The moment you make separation wrong, you're caught in it now, and you begin to live from it. But if you look at what is separation, you'll find it's a natural process of the evolution of humanity, survival instinct. If you accept that as part of evolution, you begin to transcend it. You begin to rise above it automatically. You is all you ever want. You see? Now, are you with me so far? You is what you want, really. Everything that you think for you. Anything that you feel for you. Okay? Are we convinced about this? Okay. Now, is there anybody that's different from this?
No.
No. So it's all one, isn't it? We're all the same. Are you with me so far? We're all exactly the same. So everyone is also you. Everyone is you in their heart. Because it is all what you want. Now we take it one step further. If you is all there is, and everyone else is also you, if I judge you, aren't I judging myself? If I blame you, aren't I blaming myself? Yeah. If I think badly of you, aren't I thinking badly of me? And if I hurt you, aren't I hurting myself? Of course. We move deeper. Move deeper still. Move deeper still. So now we know that what you truly want more than anything, or you may say a sailboat, $1 million, or even saying I want God. The truth is all you want is you. Once you accept that fact and you see it unbiased without making it right or wrong, because remember, the moment you judge something right or wrong, you're bringing morality into it. And you're bringing the concept of duality. And immediately you're stuck because you're not fluid. See, your nature is fluid. It is flowing. It is moving. It is not stuck. The possibilities are endless. There's no point where you stop. So therefore what we are doing when we talk about you, he says, yeah, that's right. I have to be honest. All I ever think about is myself. What I'm going to get out of it. But is that wrong? Stop. Don't judge. See? And the moment we stop not judging, you see, it's the way it is. And everybody else is the same way. We take it a step further, and the moment we take it a step further, we find we're all the same. We're all exactly the same. Name one person that is not you. When you take it that step, then you'll find that anything that you make of another, you're making of yourself. It can't be any other way. Because we are living each other's lives. Not in appearance, not in nationality, not in conditioning, but as far as being is concerned. So we're moving closer and closer to being, aren't we? No longer, we're getting into being. And then we move to the third step, which is very, very advanced. Okay? And if you can reach the third step in this lifetime, wow. I mean, that's what real awakening is. Now we're beginning to see that you are everyone else. Period. Now you've taken it a step further than just judging. You've moved even deeper now. You are actually the other. And there is no other. There's only you. Are you with me so far? Mm-hmm. There's only you. Wherever you are, whether people or not. You know, some people sometimes used to say to me, Burt, how can I build up confidence? How can I not be shy and be self-conscious? I said, when you start seeing that there's only you, then you're self-confident. Because if you were to give a speech to 1,000 people, you won't be shy, because there's only you anyway. Sitting there.
So if you feel somebody's judging you, you're really judging yourself.
Yeah. And if somebody is judging me, I kind of feel compassion for them because they're not being fair to themselves. You see? So are you seeing this? And then you move to the fourth point, which becomes also obvious, is that there's not even you. There's only oneness. but we call it you. We start with you because that's all we can understand in the beginning. And then finally you bring it to oneness or God. And that's all there is. And it's playing all the games and all the roles and all the imagination. You see, like the world is a dream, the world is imagination. But when you reach even the second step of this obvious fact of seeing, it becomes obvious to you that it's all imagination. And what you think you want is your imagination, because all you ever want is you. Because if I ask you, who wants it? I want it. So like one time a woman said to me, she said, but Burt, she said, you're wrong. It's not, me is not what I want my son, best of all. I said to her, is every son that you see, you feel the same way? She said, no, just my son. I said, my son. Everything that has to do with you, me. You see what I mean? Yeah. We all the time, we want to appear unselfish. And this is the game that is very destructive. And this is why we're afraid of death. Because we're trying to protect ourselves so much, to defend ourselves so much, that we can't even be honest. You see? Because we think we're protecting something. We're going to defend something. As apart from others, I am better than you, you know. I am more aware than you. You see, it's a badge. And the thing is, nobody is more aware than you, and you are not more aware than anybody else, because awareness is basic. We just pointed it out, right? It's a matter of bringing it out. There is nothing to know. It's obvious. Okay? There was something else, and I'd like to explore it with you, which also was a comment made on the videotape that I had last time we were satsang. And someone said to me, Burt, you said that all feelings come from being, and all feelings are love. And he says, that kind of throws me. So what about revenge? How can revenge be love? Now it's your turn to say it, to see it. How can revenge be love? Now all feelings come from love.
What's a need for love?
It's true, it's true, it's a need for love. But the best way to understand, because it can be complicated, it's true, it's a need for love, okay? Because all feelings come from love, and the ego interprets it as a need. And that need becomes, oh, I want to be loved. What if somebody loved me? What is wrong with me? Why don't I feel that love? Right? But let's take revenge so that we can understand it better. What is revenge?
Oh, it's to me such self-loathing.
No, see it as it actually
rejection.
is. No, see it as it actually, it is. It is rejection. We can come to that. But what is revenge? Plain and simple.
Hurting someone else because you've been hurt by them.
That's right. It's getting even.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. That's what revenge is. Wanting to get even. Why do we want to get even?
To hurt back.
We want to hurt somebody just like as we got hurt. You see how it goes back always in relationship all the time? You see? All the time we are simply reflecting ourselves. You see? I want to hurt you because I want you to feel like I feel. You see? And so this is what we're doing all the time, but we do not see the connection, we do not see the underlying principle of oneness. So this is the whole point. So what I have found is that the last few satsangs I've been emphasizing forgiveness as a form of judgment. No, not making any, I'm sorry, not, when I say not making any judgments, I apologize. I don't mean that, because you can't help. The mind judges all the time, okay? The point is not to judge the judging, but when you start becoming aware of judgments, something starts happening in you, and it brings you a knowledge you never knew you had. You know, now I've I've had quite a few emails, people telling me, Burt, I'm starting to do it. And it was interesting, like it all starts the same, because it started the same with me. It started with me a couple of years ago, and I think I told you this, but I'll say it again. I had quite a shock. I was feeling really good, I felt full of energy, you know, I'm walking down the street, and the guy started acting very obnoxious. And in my mind I said, oh, he's so obnoxious. And the moment I heard myself judge that person, my energy went down. And I became aware of that reaction in myself. And then I thought, wow, no wonder sometimes I don't feel good, because I'm judging and I'm not even aware I'm judging. It's affecting me all the time. You see, now the very nature of the mind is to make up its mind. Okay, the mind wants, you know, Jerry Namgel said something very, very beautiful 2 weeks ago, and I mentioned it on video too, because what he said was so beautiful. I said, why, you know, when we judge, why do we conclude? We make up our minds that this is the way it is. And so he said actually, there is no conclusion. What I don't know if he said the words. He says what we're really searching for is simply the need for security, the need for safety. We want to reach a point where we say, yeah, that's the way it is. To make us feel secure, to make us feel safe. You see? And what I loved when you said it is because it was so sincere, so much from your heart, that I know it wasn't something you read about. So, and this is so true. This is so true, because the moment you make up your mind about anything at all, you have placed yourself in a box. And you cannot see any further than that. This is what happens with a lot of religious people. You see, I'm not talking against religion, because the founders of religion have all had a wonderful awakening experience. But the followers of religions, what they do is they follow certain rules, and this is the way it is. You see, and the moment you structure the mind into putting it into a box, that's the way it is, then you cannot go any further, right? You cannot expand. You see? So that's what judgment does. So what I have found, and I'm repeating this because it's so beautiful, is that when you start seeing how much judgment you make, in the beginning, you're not aware you're making judgments. But because you are listening to it now, you could be honest and say, yeah, that was a judgment. And then you might even find yourself judging that you judged. You see, and then you stop and says, but the point is not to do anything about it. Just watch and be thankful. Thank you for making me aware that I judged. You see? And then you'll find next day you become aware of 2 or 3 judgments you made. Then after a week, something happens that will make you sad when you get up in the morning. That's where it affected me. And it's also, I received quite a few letters from people who are following this. It's not a method or system, it's what came through me, is that when you begin to see how much you're judging all the time, there is a part in you that's saying, my God, do I judge this much? You're judging yourself, but you don't catch it. There's a point where you don't catch it because it's too subtle. You see? And so the next day or something, you might go into a little bit of bad mood. You might go into sadness. You see? And then you become aware, I was sad because I was judging myself without realizing it. And then, the week after, you might have 30, 40 judgments in a day. Then you come up with 200. And then, what happens after that? You feel more alive than you've ever felt in your life. You become so aware, so sharp, that every moment is lived fully. Because the moment you become aware of a judgment, and you don't judge yourself for judging it, but you're thankful for having seen it, that in itself clears you. You see, you become pure awareness. See? And then you begin to see things in a whole new way. a whole new way. Everybody is beautiful, everybody, whether old, young, man, woman, it doesn't matter, you know. I stopped with a guy selling a paper, it's called Megaphone or something, and I give him a few dollars, street person, you know, and I read it, and so then he said, well, I get it every 2 weeks, so now he stops at the corner and he gives it to me, and anyway, it's interesting, all of a sudden I saw a light around him that normally he's invisible, you know. A street person is invisible. Someone who begs in the street is invisible to us. Even people who work as cashiers or whatever, or waitresses, sometimes they're invisible to us, unless they happen to be very good looking. You know, they wear short skirts and makeup. I'm just putting that in. But so you know, but when you don't judge, you begin to be aware of things you were never aware of before, and you don't make it good or bad anymore. That is the freedom. Okay, when we're talking about being doesn't judge. See, being is totally free, so there is no judgment in it at all. There's no right or wrong.